You didn't know this when I was getting the cigars delivered yesterday. I had a couple boxes and Rachel sent them to me in the afternoon, but it wasn't the cigar boxes. So it was this big box that I thought was full of cigars. Weird. It was a gift for a conference I'm speaking at. And they had emailed me and said it was coming.
Are these binoculars?
And asked me do an unboxing. Would you open up the box and go, ooh, ah. And I was like, respectfully, no.
I was about to say, did you?
You could pay me all the money in the world, and I'm not.
Can I see that video?
Yeah, you could pay me all the money in the world. I'm not going to do that. Accidentally, not even thinking about it, a couple of days ago, I posted on LinkedIn and mentioned that I use their product, which it was a genuine post. But I'll happily talk about stuff that I use, in normal life, and in a normal way. Yeah, it was. What was it? It was a blanket.
But they're not a blanket company.
No, they're a legal software company.
I was going to say, this is the software company.
It was 2 tin copper cups that you would use for a Moscow Mule and binoculars.
What?
I don't know. Am I supposed to go to the park, use the binoculars, check out people while sipping on my Moscow Mule?
With your blanket.
Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do? I'm really glad you could join us. No, I know you had a tough morning. You went to the dentist, right?
Yes.
How did that go? You have any cavities?
No cavities.
You sure?
Yes.
Say,
They were very impressed. You're doing a great job. I didn't have to do, I didn't have to do x-rays because I'm pregnant, so. That's
how you get out of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, you can't use that card.
How many dentists do you think you passed on the way to your dentist?
Oh, a lot. I have dentist anxiety, so I drive 40 minutes to my dentist that I've seen since before Charlie was born. So what is that, 13 years ago?
And they're still your people.
They know me by name. I don't even have to sign in. When I walk in, they're like, hey, Ashley, Georgette will be out in just a minute. But they know that I get anxious and stuff. So they ask me how I'm doing. They talk to me like I would talk to a kindergartner. They're like, you're doing a great job. I like that personal touch that they already know that I have anxiety. So I don't have to explain it again and be like, this makes me anxious. They already know how I feel about them.
Then on the way home, you had a problem.
Yeah, so that was the problem, is that I drive 40 minutes up there and then I have to drive 40 minutes back home. And on the way home, my car all of a sudden was like low tire pressure.
Right, which not a big deal.
I knew I had one tire that was getting a little low anyways, but I have this really cool diagram on my dashboard that has 4 green tires, so I know that they're all good.
Who did that for you?
You did.
Okay. Because you need a car diagram.
I need the visual. But then when I got in my car after the dentist, I started driving home. One of them goes from green to orange. I'm like, oh God, is there a red or is orange the bad? I don't know.
So what do?
I call you.
And
which
what
any wife I think would do. They call their husband.
And I said, hey, QuickTrip has free air. If not, just stop at another gas place. $1, $2.
That's not true. My first question was, do you think I'll be okay to make it home, or is this an emergency situation?
And I said, it's fine, but if you pass a place, stop. And what did you say?
Well, I said, I got out and I looked at my car. It doesn't look like it's low to me, so it looks fine.
You're delaying. What else did you say?
And then I said, I don't know how to put air in my tire. I have never had to do that on my own.
You do not know how to put air in your tires.
My parents did it for me growing up.
I'm not going to say how old you are, but you are a grown-ass woman.
So I will say, when I got my first car when I was 16 years old, my grandfather showed me how to change.
Over 20 years. Okay, you said it. Over 20 years ago.
He showed me how to change a tire. He showed me how to check the oil, with that little stick thing that you pull out and you look and see how much the oil is. He showed me how to, put air in the tires. But that was so long ago, I don't know. I don't even know how to pop the hood of my car. I don't know where that button is.
All right, important things. You do not need to pop the hood to put air in the tires.
Well, I know that.
Are you sure? And then second, air has not changed. The technology around putting air in tires has not changed.
Well, I brought it home for you to do.
Yeah, thank you. I will do that. The other day, Charlie we were listening to
Justin Bieber song.
Yeah, Daisies. We're listening to Daisies by Justin Bieber. That is Wells' favorite song.
I'm trying to figure out where this story is going.
He likes to clap, or he likes to snap, and he likes to clap. That's it. It makes him happy. So I'm playing the song, and Charlie says, "What's the name of the song? Sexy?" And I looked at her and said, what? And she goes, yeah, sexy. And I said, why would you think that? And she said, well, because they talk about being in bed together, that he wants her in his bed. And I said, well, I think it's a romantic song because he talks about buying her flowers. Daisies is the name. And, you can be romantic without it being about sex. And she looks at me, looks at Olivia. She even looked at Wells to see if he was going to stop her. I don't know where you were.
I wasn't at the house at this time.
And we're just sitting on the dinner table, the quiet dinner table with daisies playing in the background. And she says, well, I mean, I did walk in on you and Mom that time in Aruba. And I went, what? And she goes, yeah, you and Mom were sexy. And I was like,
oh, Jesus Christ.
What? And I know exactly what she's talking about. You know what she's talking about. And I said,
the whole world doesn't need to know what she was talking about.
What would you have said there?
I would have said you should have knocked.
Yeah, that's what I went with. I
don't know.
They'll teach you not to knock. And she goes, I did knock. And I said, well, I'll teach you not to come in until you get confirmation to come in.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Need a break?
Yeah, my face red. Well, I didn't think you were going to go through the whole story.
It just came to me. This isn't on my list today.
Oh, God.
But that brings me to what is on my list, which is a sort of sex, but not. Sort of sex, but not. So we've had Wells, and you are pregnant. And
with baby number 4.
None of those involved us having sex. That's my transition. You like it?
Oh, my God.
You like it?
No.
Well, we're going with it.
So this is an IVF episode.
Yeah, I think we've talked a bunch about, or made reference, I guess, to Wells being an IVF baby. I know we've said that, but I figured that we should go through it, especially with this crazy thing that happened in Georgia that involves the law and hospitals and your rights as a mother or even as a person. Hopefully this touches some people out there in different ways, whether it's you that's experienced this, whether you know somebody, or whether you're just interested in the topic. So let's talk about why we did it. I married into Charlie and Olivia. That's the phrase I use, at least. When we started dating, your hard rule was you want to have another baby.
Yes. Anytime that you make really big life changes, it's very, very hard. And so when I made a life change and it was just the girls and I did have to come to terms where it may just be the girls and I accepted that and I was fine. But then when I decided, I went through therapy and I decided I wanted, a relationship and that family unit and stuff. And I was ready to, try for that. I wouldn't have been in a relationship with somebody who didn't want kids, first of all, because I had 2 already, or who didn't want more because that was something that I wanted to at least try for, was a 3rd child.
That therapy must have really helped because you really focused in on what you wanted and then you accomplished that. That's great. I, as a longtime subscriber of the therapy system, we're very pro therapy. My office, the guys in my office, we kid around. I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? And it's like therapy day. Mine was, I do not want to marry someone who has kids. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I want kids at all.
Yep.
And here we are.
And I will say, though, I did not do anything to change your mind because I didn't know any of that when we first met, that you were iffy about kids. We just met very organically. We started out as friends. And I think you meeting the girls and stuff kind of...
They're not bad.
changed your mind a little bit.
They're okay. So we decide that we're going to get married and we're going to have kids.
Yeah.
Kid at the time.
Yeah. One kid at the time.
And we were in this area where we had the option essentially to use IVF. And it was a choice. We could have not used it. We could have tried. We could have kind of gone in the middle ground. You want to explain that? You're more the expert.
Well, I knew going into our relationship that I had infertility issues because with the girls, I had to take medication to get pregnant with them. So we already knew that was something that was coming up. Before we got married, we went to a fertility doctor. What?
Oh, go on.
We went to a fertility doctor and just ran some tests and things. And
what did those tests reveal about us?
That you are a perfect specimen. Is that what you want?
Yes.
We did that. And then we also, along with that, was genetic testing and stuff. And so what we found is that I have PCOS, which means that I have a cyst on my ovaries, which prevents you from getting pregnant easily. And then we also found out, which I found very interesting, is that I was a carrier myself of a lot of disorders.
CF being the big one.
Yeah, cystic fibrosis being a big one, which since you weren't a carrier of that, our kid would not have it, but our children could be carriers. And then something that was really surprising was because of my age, we found out that we had a really high chance of having a kid with a genetic disorder. And not, when I say high chance, it was, I think, 1 in 3. And actually what we found out later on is that held very true to the blastocyst that we created. Because
I remember them showing that chart to us about age and how it increases. And I was like, holy crap. And
it literally was at 35. It just changes. And I think 30 was a big number and 35 was a big number.
I remember leaving there and being like, so when can I give my specimen? Because I don't want to wait a day. I don't want to wait a week. I don't want to wait a month.
Yeah.
Take it now. So how many eggs did the retrieval went as well? Before we get to the retrieval, to build up to the retrieval. So the retrieval is the big thing. I mean, and that's a lot of times where it's the biggest hurdle is retrieving eggs. So that way you can actually make blastocysts and, implant them and hopefully have a baby.
Yes.
Leading up to the egg retrieval, we're doing all these shots. I mean, all of these shots. And you mentioned me as a chemist. Like they come as potions.
And they just are like, watch this video, mix this one with this one. And it's very overwhelming how much, it's not pressure that they put on you, but
it's pressure.
They rely on you. They have a lot of faith in you to not screw it up.
I wanted to be like, I didn't do well in science. And here we are, we're blending the metric system, whatever system we have in this country. Like I'm asking you, like, is this a liter? And they're like, oh no.
And you're not a shot person. You're not a blood person. You're not this. It's not for you. I'm not either, to be honest. The medications are expensive.
Yeah.
So you don't want to mess it up.
We get up to the egg retrieval and we were woefully unprepared for how difficult the egg retrieval was.
And I don't know if that was a fault of ours or a fault of maybe some miscommunication. We just didn't understand the process very much. We knew from the get-go that because I had PCOS that I would have overstimulation, which means that my ovaries would overstimulate and create a ton of follicles for them to take out, which they did. I mean, I swelled up. I looked almost 4 or 5 months pregnant. So we knew that was a possibility of happening. And so we also knew that we couldn't immediately turn around and put the egg in. A lot of people do that like a few days later.
Yeah.
And so we were prepared for that. What I wasn't prepared for is that they put you to sleep during the egg retrieval. I remember they were like, come back with us, hop up here. All right, lay down. And then I was asleep. Like, I don't know where I missed that part. I was not... Well, and you didn't know that either until they rolled me back in and I was asleep.
No. And this is what I was thinking of earlier is that you couldn't remember this, but they came back in and to me and I'm like, how'd it go? And the lady looks and goes, there were so many eggs. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But we also underestimated. So I guess the procedure went really, really well. It was very successful. There were, do you remember how many eggs there were?
So they were follicles before they turned eggs.
Right,
so they were follicles. They were, I think they took like 86. It was the most that nurse had ever seen. They took 86 follicles in.
A good number is like 10. That's a great number.
Right. And it took, after that procedure, I think it took like 2 or 3 months to recover from that because it was just so painful.
Yeah, that's what I think we really underestimated. And you were laid up for days after that. Mm-hmm. And that was not something that we anticipated. Like we thought, I think we did on a Friday, and we all expected you to be up and around certainly by Monday. That did not happen.
Yeah. It was... And when they take 86 follicles, that doesn't mean that we have 86 blastocysts that are just hanging out. They dwindle down. So then they call you
they grow them essentially.
Yeah, they call you in a couple of days and they're like, now you're down to 46. Now you're down to this number. Now you're down to this number.
I think we were in the 20s at the end.
We were in the 20s and they, at that point, they say, okay, we have this many blastocysts. We want to get them tested. And I think... to get them tested, they only took 15 of whatever was left because they said otherwise you have to pay like per blastocyst, I think. And we said we just wanted one.
Yeah.
So So we were like, 15 is great. Just take 15. We got called into the office, and of the 15, the doctor showed us there were 5 that did have genetic disorders. And then they listed them in order, the ones...
Yeah, we did it at Emory. They rank them.
Yes. If they had a genetic disorder, they didn't get ranked. They kind of got taken out. So then we had 10.
I remember they ranked them all Bs, and I was like, "Whoa, can we not get an A?
I know.
Where's the A?" And they said it's art and science. How we rank them, we've really never seen an A, but
Right.
they're ranked in order of viability. And I know a lot of people think, and I thought, you do IVF and you can choose a lot of things. You could choose boy or girl. You could choose eye color. You could choose whatever you wanted. And maybe that does happen places.
Maybe.
But we went to Emory, and Emory does not let you do that.
Yes.
They say, we've ranked them. If you want to continue with us, you're taking the highest ranked blastocyst because, assume, they want the highest success rate they can have. And
we chose Emory because they had a very high success rate. And part of the reason they have a high success rate is because they don't do, it's called family planning. They don't let you pick the gender. They also said at Emory, they very rarely get A's. They rank them very strict, like extremely strictly.
when Wells gets B's in class, I'm like, well, yeah, makes sense.
Stop it. We did talk to the doctor about that during that first genetic meeting. And what they do, Emory, the lab at Emory, actually blacks out the gender of each one. And so even the lab doesn't know because they don't want a doctor who goes, oh, I have a lot of success with putting boys in. I'm going to put a boy, sort of thing. They want it to be purely based off the grading.
I didn't want to have you go through the process again, maybe because we didn't take the highest ranked, highest rated blastocyst.
Right.
That was my main concern.
And at that point, we didn't know what the implantation was going to look like, what that process was going to look like. It was much
breeze.
easier. It was not a breeze.
Breeze. I just sat there. I was
You
great.
weren't the
I
one.
just sat right there. No, but
You weren't the one taking the shots for. So not only
I was giving them though.
You-
It was look. They say the greatest pain that you can live through is seeing the person you love in pain. So I would suggest to you. I'm not going to finish that sentence, but you can do the
if
logic.
I could give you a couple of shots just for like fun.
I politely declined.
Well, you give shots to lead up to the implantation. You give shots up until the time of the implantation. You're awake during that.
Yeah. That's that. You don't feel anything. Is that fair? I mean, you feel them. You don't actually feel the implant. You feel obviously how they set the procedure up, right?
Yes.
My favorite part of it is they do the implant, and we had talked to the doctors, and they're like, "Look, it's way easier than the
egg retrieval.
The retrieval. Like you walk out of there, and you will be totally fine." I think we went and got Dairy Queen after, if I remember right.
Yes, we did.
But I remember that the process. It's kind of funny. I mean, it is funny. They have us in the room.
That's connected to the lab.
Yeah.
The room has a door that goes straight to the lab.
And the lab technicians, like when it's ready, they start basically like the clock. And they're like, okay, let's go. It's like, they're going to rob a bank where everyone's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, let's do it.
Right. We had to be in there at a certain time, and then we had to wait for the lab to be ready because they had to thaw it out because they were frozen.
The lab technicians come in. There's 2 of them. They're all suited up. They look like hazmat people. I'm like, is this baby
like
dangerous?
one of like the little syringes with, with our blastocyst in it.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, one guy's holding it.
And they're reading off
It's like
the
me
code.
going into CVS with the needle, but this time there's a blastocyst in it. And they read, they check it. Everybody confirms. And then they're about to open the vault safe. It was like a bank robbery. And then they literally just put it into a tube, and then they press down on the lever and it goes into you, right? That's I mean, it's not, look, I'm not a doctor.
Scientific.
Not a doctor. But my favorite part is, and then they immediately leave. Go back in the lab.
They run.
Yeah, literally run. They clear the hallway. They clear the hallway so that way there's nobody gonna bump into them or anything.
One person is kind of blocking and the other one is holding the syringe because they have to look underneath a microscope.
Make sure the blastocyst came out.
Microscope,
He's not hanging on the wall being like, no, keep me
They
here.
said that happens like in a small percentage, but
Then they come back in. They're like, all right, he's in.
And everybody's like, good job, team.
literally. And then you leave.
Well, and they give, I think
They gave us the first picture.
That's first ultrasound picture, and it's just a picture of the blastocyst under a microscope because you can't see it otherwise. And Maybe we'll pin it on the video or something because we've got 2 of them.
And it's not, the process isn't done at that point. Even you then go what we call IVF school.
And the first time we didn't realize that, but you have to continue taking medication shots for 12 weeks after.
Well, and appointments.
Oh gosh.
That's what IVF school, I think of as, and they call it, you graduate from IVF, the IVF program.
Yeah, from the IVF clinic.
But you go a lot during those first 12 weeks. I mean, I don't know.
Multiple ultrasounds a week.
Yeah, and I don't know the experience that other people have, obviously, when they don't use IVF, but I know that they have far less ultrasounds. I mean, at some point, we were doing an ultrasound in the first trimester every week for those 12 weeks. I mean, I think we have more ultrasound pictures than, I don't know, pictures of us over the last year.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many.
So many of them. It got to the point where I knew the technicians very well.
It
they
stressed
knew
me the fuck out, going every single time to make sure everything was okay.
Well, and you didn't even go every time because sometimes, it was just like a quick little checkup. And a lot of times at the very beginning, you can't really even see anything. You don't see a baby. They're just, oh, yep, your little circle is implanted. And then we graduated eventually.
And then we sat around.
12 weeks.
Then we sat around and was like, well, wait,
what do we do now?
We don't go back for a while? This is just unknown. And compared to Wells versus this baby, I remember just being so stressed out and it being so much of time and focus and energy, just being worried.
It was so new. Not only was it IVF, but just being with somebody that was pregnant was so new for you.
And you were just like, where's my ice cream? And then that
is not true. I was so sick.
No, let's tell everybody what your craving was. So I hear about all these women having awesome cravings, right? McDonald's late night. I could get behind that. Dairy Queen ice cream, some good stuff. We live surrounded by barbecue places. Now, if you're like me from New Jersey, barbecue is something you do in your backyard. It's a thing. Barbecue is a food in the South, and
I am very Southern.
It's ribs and barbecue, pulled pork.
But there's only one barbecue place that I wanted.
Fat Mats, and it got to the point. Where all you were eating was the Brunswick stew for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's the only thing I could keep down that didn't make me sick, and I craved it to the point where I was buying it by the pint, not just the cup.
You were buying it by the pint. I was going in there and the lady would just be like, at some point she asked me, she's like, you buy so much of this. And I was like, this is the only thing my wife will eat. And that day she just passed it over and was like, don't worry, it's on us.
It was such a weird craving, but I loved it. And you know what? Wells loves Brunswick stew now.
Like, I remember this.
He's like, this tastes familiar.
So we went through that process and it was successful. Although the stat is that only 1/3 of implanted babies are successful to birth. Mm-hmm. But we had this crazy scenario in Georgia, which I know you followed.
Actually at Emory.
Yeah, I've never seen you follow a news story so closely. You're very anti-news. Not that you're anti what's going on in the world, but you're anti, it stresses you out.
It stresses me out and it makes me really sad and heartbroken.
I'll come in and tell you something and you're just like, I don't want to talk about it, or not today.
Yeah.
But what happened was there was a local woman here, local to us, who was a nurse. And she
worked at the Emory Hospital where we delivered Wells.
I didn't realize
Midtown.
That. I did not know
that. She was held at the Midtown Emory Hospital.
I knew that. She initially went to a hospital because she had an episode of some sort.
She had headaches. She was having headaches.
They send her home, and then she
went back to Emory.
And they realized, hey, there's something really wrong, and she ends up in a coma.
She ends up brain dead and on life support. But during that process, what they find out is that she was 8 or 9 weeks pregnant.
Right.
I believe it was 8 weeks.
And that's at that point, she has no brain functioning. She's being held alive by ventilators and other assisted things that you need to live. And she has this 8-week-old that is, that she's pregnant with.
Yes. And so the doctors, make a decision to keep her alive, to keep the baby alive. And I think
you say the doctors did. The doctors had to. They didn't have a choice. The law required the law required the doctors.
Right. I'm sure the doctors called their lawyer and were like, what do I do? The reason I followed it so much is because it's a really hard topic for me because I miscarried before at like 9 weeks. And they literally, the doctor, I mean, granted, this was years ago, but they send you home and they say, good luck. They don't give you any medication. They don't do anything to try and save that baby. They just are like, we can't help you. So they kept this woman alive. And it's very, very hard to keep a body functioning because you have so many different organs and you have so many different things that are working together. Yeah, it was just.
And as soon as the baby was viable, they facilitated the birth.
I don't think it was that. The baby was. I don't even know if the baby had reached the viable, what they say is viable. I think her body started to just decompose. Like they could not keep her alive anymore. And so they did birth the baby. But I think that's the confusing thing is that the doctors don't know what to do in that situation. They're trusting, their lawyer who is reading the law one way. And the government comes in and says, oh no, it doesn't mean that you had to keep her alive. So,
well, the government didn't say that in this situation.
Right, they didn't say that. I think they're backtracking now and saying that. But yeah, it's just very scary. It's
I'm of the belief that medical decisions should be made by the doctors and the people involved, not the government. I'm sure there's some exceptions I could probably think of, but that's my general stance on things. The fear I have, I guess, with what's going on now. So if the fear that we had in our situation was how are the laws changing and how is that going to affect if we need treatment? Can you get it? Can you not?
Right.
Now my fear is because of how healthcare is changing. I looked up these stats. 8.6 million Americans don't live within 30 minutes of any hospital. 30 million Americans don't live within an hour of a trauma center. So they might live in a hospital, but they don't do trauma.
Right.
112 million people live in what's called a healthcare desert. That's a third, more than a third. It's 37% of Americans that you are more than 1 hour from any hospital.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1,104 counties in the United States that don't deliver babies.
I believe that. I have a friend who lives in North Carolina, and she had to drive over an hour to deliver her baby. So she had a scheduled induction for all of them just because.
What happens, though, if it comes early?
Right.
And then the reason I got into this is because I saw an article that 70% of Mississippi rural hospitals do not have the capabilities to deliver babies. So
I think I saw that too.
You live in a rural area. Maybe you don't have access to transportation readily. You don't have the means, and now you're traveling more than an hour to deliver a baby. And the mortality rates in the United States are not stellar.
Right.
The average mortality birth rate, the bad outcomes, it's 5.6 per 1,000 is the average. So 5.6 times out of 1,000, there's a bad outcome. States like Arkansas, South Dakota, Alabama, Florida,
very rural states.
Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Tennessee all are more than double that. More than double that. And it's because of healthcare access or lack thereof. And we don't have that issue, thankfully. But I get really worried as, big companies take over healthcare and the government kind of lets it be a free-for-all. And they're more worried about stopping choices that people will make in their individual lives and not giving access to healthcare to people who need it. I can't imagine driving an hour or more if you're going into labor.
Especially because every labor experience is different. I mean, you can have a fast labor, you can have a slow labor. Like, you just don't know until you're in that. I mean, we've had 3 kids, and every single one of those experiences has been different. I'm sure this one will be completely different than those. So you can plan as best you can, but you are never 100% prepared.
Speaking of planning, we are planning on changing health insurance. So we've been using your COBRA insurance from when you were a teacher, but that is running out.
Yes, and I am very spoiled because the state health benefit plan that I am on has a huge pool of people that is also on it. So we have really great, teachers, police officers, anybody that works for the state, we all share this plan and we have really good benefits. And
that's the plan you grew up on because your mom is also a teacher and now principal.
I have never not had the state health benefit plan where you pay a copay. I mean,
I've never had good insurance until you.
Very, very spoiled. I will say it is a privilege to have that kind of healthcare because I walk in and I pay a copay and I don't have to worry. I don't have a high deductible. What I found out when we switched to Cobra, when I stopped working,
was how much it actually cost.
Is how much it actually cost. I had no idea because I thought, because I think you pay 50% of your employees' health care. The state pays more than 50% of mine. I was paying a fraction of the cost.
Well,
and
what we've learned is that your health insurance really costs $3,000 a month about. And for the plans
for a family, and that is nowhere near what I was paying.
Well, and the plans that my company has access to are limited by who will provide private companies plans and your size. If we were a company of 500, we would have better access to plans. I think it's really stupid that whether you can have good health insurance or bad health insurance, which has nothing to do with your job, is linked to how big your employer is and what access they have.
Right.
So as a small business, we don't have access to all the plans that Google does, that Microsoft does, whatever. So the plan choices that we have, we're going to be paying, I think it's $3,400 a month for our family for worse health insurance. It's pretty much, if our deductible was, $2, now our deductible is $4. It's double.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I had never, well, I shouldn't say I've never. When I first opened the law firm, I didn't even qualify for health insurance. Like I was the employer. So I wasn't going to go buy a plan for the firm because the firm was me. So I was on the health exchange, the marketplace. And I had plans that was like single male healthy plan, which is
that never goes to the doctor.
Yeah, right.
You will be on your deathbed. It was for catastrophic events, right?
That's it. Because at the time, and I think this has changed, I'm not totally sure, the government gave you a penalty if you didn't have health insurance. And that penalty was more expensive than it was for me just to get this catastrophic insurance.
Right.
But as the firm has grown, I mean, Chris Stokes started when we were still very small. He got his plan. It still made sense for him to be on the healthcare marketplace, and I was paying that. But it's not just how many people you have in your office. It's also how many people are actually on the plan. So Alex's wife works for a large company. They have better access to plans, no fault of ours. And frankly, no reason for them to have better access. So he's on their plan. His family's on her plan.
Well, the same reason our family was on my plan versus your office plan.
It just makes no sense to tie healthcare and the availability of it to who your employer happens to be.
Yeah.
But so now we renew at the end of this month. So we're looking at different plans and we're going to have a tiered system where it's the really expensive plan that you and I will be on. That's good. And then a lower plan for everybody who, was like I used to be.
You're giving a choice to your employee. And some employees will choose the more expensive one because they like that.
But we are barely over the cutoff of how many people we need on the plans, any plan using the plans to even have access to good ones.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe good. All right. What else do you want to talk about? How can we end?
I don't know. It's been a heavy week, so I didn't come up with anything to talk about.
Oh, I was going to go heavier here.
Oh.
I don't know how I can't.
Are you going to talk about Wednesday?
I have to.
Yeah. So when we are filming this, I don't know when this is going to come out, but it is the end of August, and it's on a Friday, and a shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis occurred on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, 2 kids were dead or killed, and the bullets came from outside the school. A former student shot into the school.
And it hits home because we have an 8-year-old, and one of the kids that died was 8. And we send her off to school every day. Our other 2 kids, our 12-year-old and our 1.5-year-old, they go to church-based schools where they have chapel services, just like these kids were in. But it very easily could have been any of their schools.
As people are watching this, and certainly as we are filming this, a large section of the country has not even started school this year. So growing up in New Jersey, we start in September. And there are tons of kids who have not even walked back into their schools. And we already have our first shooting at a school this year. And we talked about this last season because it came up then and it's going to keep coming up. And I am just so sick and tired of the responses that people give, the thoughts and prayers responses, oh, that's so tragic. Like at some point, somebody has to do something. And I was researching last night and I didn't know this. There was a shooting in 1996 at a school in the UK where 16 or 17 kids were killed and a teacher. And the following year, I think the shooting was in 1996. The following year in 1997, the UK put in reforms and restrictions on guns. And they have not had a single school shooting since then. Their kids don't do active shooter drills. While you were teaching and while kids were in the same school you were teaching, because there were active shooters in the area, there were lockdowns of the schools while you were there.
Yes.
I remember I was right over here watching TV on the phone with you, texting, telling you what the update was of the active shooter because you were locked down. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. And I don't understand why we are just okay with accepting that as a reality. There's a lady in New York that explained that she's blind, legally blind, like not like
since birth.
Yeah, not like legally blind, like I can still see, kind of legally
Cannot
blind.
See anything.
And it is easier for her to get a gun than go on disability or receive Medicare in New York, which is known as one of the most restrictive states for guns. I will share that every day there's 125 people killed in the United States by gun violence. And over the last 3 years, 2022 to 2024, this year's not over, leading cause of death for the first time ever of children is guns. There's been more than 500 school shootings since Columbine in April of 1999. Mm-hmm. And kids are 10 times more likely to die from gun violence in the United States than any other similar country, Canada being the closest one, but all other countries, you're 20 times more likely to die. Right. And I just don't know what it will take. Is it selfishness? Is it the way I look at it is that we took down behind you. I'll tell everybody. Yeah. We took down a baby gate that was behind you, so it didn't show.
It didn't go with the aesthetic.
Yeah. But we have baby gates. We have things on the drawers and our cabinets so that Wells can't get in there because you can't trust a toddler with dangerous things. And I think we've proven as a country we can't be trusted with guns because even if some of us are safe, even if your toddler is safe, other ones aren't going to be. And I don't know what it takes because the only arguments I ever hear, I'll tell you the 3 arguments I constantly hear from people that, say that either gun restrictions are shouldn't be more strict or that we shouldn't have them at all because there's those people out there. It's one, we need guns so that way we can overthrow the government if they start oppressing us. Well, motherfuckers, you've been oppressed. I go, well, welcome to 2025, and we have been for a long time. The military has has capabilities that your guns aren't going to do anything. They'll press a button on a drone and kill you. The idea that we can overthrow our government in 2025 hasn't been true for decades. That's ridiculous. Number 2, gun restrictions are not going to prevent all deaths. There's going to be, but we know in the car context that if the speed limit raises every 5 or 10 miles an hour, that is going to lead to a pretty certain number of additional deaths. That's why in Georgia, our speed limit's 70. Our government is like, you know what? Let's drive faster, a little bit more on the death side. That's okay. Like that's literally the utility logic. That's it. Okay. They would say it differently, but that's it. Go to drive up to South Carolina and it's 65 because they've made the decision that the utility of driving 5 miles an hour faster isn't worth the danger of more people being killed in car crashes.
Right.
So then you get into I use the UK story that Australia, they don't have guns and they don't have gun deaths in schools especially. And it's, well, they have knife crimes. They have knife problems.
You are much more likely to survive.
Oh my God, bring on your knives. Bring on your knives.
A gun. And we're not talking about the shotgun, with the buckshot or a rifle that has a limited amount of bullets in it. I'm not even talking about your pistol. These are like semi-automatic guns with magazine after magazine after magazine that are unfortunately targeting our children. And I've heard a lot of people say, it's a mental health issue, and
I was getting there. That was my third.
So I agree. There is a mental health issue. Anybody who wants to harm children, like that's what they want to do, then yes, that 100% is a mental health issue.
But if we can't solve the mental health issue, then we have to take away the availability of guns to people who want to kill other people.
I think that this problem has a solution that requires 2 or more things to be solved. And I don't know. I don't think it has to be either or. I think it should be both.
Well, the mental health idea goes away, though, once the people if they survive the shooter, if they survive, because, I want them brought to justice. I want them penalized. I want them held criminally liable. Well, if you have mental health issues and you don't know right from wrong, then you shouldn't stand trial because you're not competent. You're not able to. You can't have it both ways.
If you're already a responsible gun owner, I don't know why you wouldn't be okay with just proving that you're responsible.
Make gun owners have insurance. Make gun owners have insurance.
I did see an article about that as well.
Yeah, you have a dangerous instrument, which in
like
some ways, can be a car. But the utility of a car is to get you from point A to point B. The best utility I can come up with the gun is enjoyment. It's enjoyment.
I think in rural areas, I think it provides food for people.
Provides food?
Yeah, I think that they use hunting as yeah, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, I know you're from New Jersey.
Food. I don't know the stats on that, but I don't think that's the majority of that's even.
I think in rural areas, I think it is.
If that's your reason, have insurance, and then you be responsible if your gun is used, and because you didn't lock it up safely, you didn't keep the bullets separated, you allowed access to your gun, so someone else who is angry, has a mental health issue, whatever, is a kid and doesn't know what they're doing, they hurt themselves or they hurt someone else. We do this with every other thing that's dangerous and can kill people, and we don't do it with guns. And it's just a line drawing issue. It's where are we going to draw the line? We have more guns than people in this country, and if guns made us safer, we have the most guns you can have. We should be the safest country.
I do think there have been changes at the local level. What would you say, this is kind of going back to lawyer field, what do people do to change at bigger levels? Like government-wise?
Man.
I think that's why there's a lot of thoughts and prayers, because I think a lot of people don't know what they can do. At the local level, a few years ago, I know that we were going to lose our resource officer. We were going to have them only part-time and have to share them with another school. And parents got together and figured out how to fundraise and figured out.
If you just heard that, Olivia, come over here, please. School is out.
There, look, right there. Hello. All right.
Go eat your snack.
Love you.
We'll be out of here soon. We love you. We're talking about you, sort of.
But a few years ago, our local school was going to lose the resource officer, where we were only going to have them for part-time. And the parents got together and went to the school board. They figured out how to allocate money to make sure that we had a resource officer full-time at our school.
You've hit the answer. You've hit the answer to the question you asked. It's money. It's money. The answer is money. If you want to change something, you need, in your local community and on the state and federal level, you need to invest money. The answer is you need to find someone who's wants to run for office or is already in office and who shares your beliefs, and you need to donate a lot of money to them. And if you don't have that person, then you need to find a group, just like you would with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. If you believe that when we were kids, drunk driving was I would say more of a hot topic. I don't know why I don't hear as much about drunk driving.
Right.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Dads Against Drunk Driving. Those groups did great work because they had money, and you go to politicians and you hire lobbyists, and that's the way our world works for some reason. If you get to the end of this episode and you think that we are heathens and terrible people for doing IVF, and that we're not real Americans because of whatever your beliefs are and whatever my beliefs are, which are different on the gun issue, go yourself. I don't care. I want you to disagree with me. I want you to question yourselves. I want you to write me a comment that says, you're an idiot, here's why. And I want to read that and go, actually, this is a really good point. What I don't want you to do is regurgitate the same nonsense that we needed to protect our our constitutional rights from the government, or that it's only a mental health issue, or whatever the other nonsense is, that if not, guns will be replaced by knives. Like I said, bring on the knives. So this is my way at this stage of doing something about it. That's why we talk about it. If you've tuned out, I don't give a shit. For the few people that remain, I'm cool with that. And I'm glad that you heard this conversation. All right, let's go make sure our kids don't get hurt doing whatever they're doing in the basement right now.